open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
All right, welcome to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, or one of your hosts today, because on Thursdays and Fridays we have three hosts, and it's awesome. We have Tom, Bob, and Debbie, your favorite crew, and we always enjoy having great guests on the show. And today we've got a really good guest. So we have, I guess, one of the real leaders in the Republican Party in the state is here today. He's the leader of the Republican Party of Jefferson County, Jefferson County Republicans.
Big job.
So, Don Fitzpatrick. And so we're going to have him the whole show. We're going to discuss a lot of different topics. One hot topic is just this nonpartisan, election we just had. It was confusing to a lot of folks. We had a lot of concern about it. Just kind of break that down. What does that mean? How that came about? How we should approach elections going forward? And just some background on that. Also, we want to hear also a bunch of other topics too. This is the primary in general, and just the Metro Council races. We have a lot happening here in Jefferson County, locally, and this is the man to talk to. So we also want to encourage you to send in your text. So we have a text line 502-571-0970, 502-571-0970. If you have any questions or comments for Don Fitzpatrick, who is the head of the Jefferson County Republican Party, and he's been involved in the party politics in the state for quite a while, so he knows quite a bit of what's happening, and so it's just a great guy to talk to. So, Debbie, before we go to Don, I just want to say hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Good
Welcome,
morning.
Debbie. And then we have Bob Scott.
Hi there.
In Shelby County, and so
how's everybody? Hi, there he is.
And so, Debbie, why don't you introduce Don and just give, because you work with him on the.
I'd be honored to do so. So I am a member of the Jefferson County Republican Party at Large Committee. And I just want to say to citizens out there, come to our meetings. They're every second Tuesday of the month from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And that's where you're really going to get the skinny of what's going on the inside of the party apparatus, and how you can be very involved and to help and to educate yourself and to get the word out in the community. That's where you're going to get a lot of questions answered. And just come in, you're going to hear all of the candidates. You're going to hear the issues. You're going to get an update from the Metro Council. But we've had a very excellent leader these past 3 years, actually 5 years. He was the vice chairman for a while, and now he's our chairman. His name is Don Fitzpatrick. He wasn't born in Kentucky, but he got here as fast as he could. And I'm very happy about that. But he has been great, and he's going to be able to, he has been in a C-suite all of his life as working in the executive branch out there in the real world, and he brings all that great experience in helping our community. So, Don, welcome to the program. We're so glad that you're here today.
Well, Debbie, thank you for having me. Tom and Bob, thank you for having me. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. I certainly appreciate the opportunity. We had an interesting Tuesday night, and it's always at the end of a long, in this case, 3 or 4 months in a primary race. You've got some races that go exactly the way you want them to, others that don't quite go that way. But the bottom line is, and I want to thank Debbie, our Jefferson County Republican Party team is a team. I happen to be honored to be the leader of that team, but we work as peers, and I know when I will encourage you, anybody out there that's interested in coming to the Lincoln Day dinner on August 26th. Debbie does a great job of putting a fantastic event together, very patriotic, and it's going to be a lot of fun this year, just really knowing that we're celebrating the 250th of our country, anniversary of our country, and I'm so proud to be connected to the Republican Party and in the capacity that I'm in to help celebrate that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of work to do between now and November.
Well, let me tease the next segment with this. We have about 40 seconds left, so we want to get right into this topic because there's a lot of folks that went to the voters booth for the this primary, and they were just confused. It's like they were used to seeing the R and the D, and we ended up with a good example. We ended up with two candidates for mayor who would probably traditionally have been Democrats. And that's all we have on the general election ballot now is two left-leaning options. So there's a lot of questions about how this nonpartisan ballot played out, why it played out. You're the person to explain that better than anyone, and how Republicans need to strategize and to win in this county. So we'll be right back with Don Fitzpatrick with the Jefferson County Republican Party. Here on Kentucky's Voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and want to encourage you to send in your text today. We have a great guest, head of the Jefferson County Republican Party, Don Fitzpatrick, and I'm sure there's some questions and comments that you'd like to pass along, so please give us a text, 502-571-0970. And Don, we're going to get to Bob and Debbie's comments as well, but I wanted just to put this out there real quick. There's a lot of folks that went to the ballot box who weren't familiar with the the recent changes in election law that have impacted partisan versus nonpartisan races. So a lot of our city, metro council, mayor, metro council races are all nonpartisan now. And so folks that are used to looking for that R&D on the ballot, they didn't see that. So I had folks call me and say, hey, who should I vote for this? I don't so you got to look at the name. You got to remember the name of the person. It's not the R&D anymore. You got to know the name. And so so that caused a little bit of confusion and concern. And so I know, I think that was a state legislative issue and initiative. And so what are your thoughts on that? How it panned out and just
Well, Tom, it was confusing, and we expected a certain amount of confusion. I will tell you, 2 years ago, and Debbie was in the room as one of our executive team members, I was not in favor of that.
Yeah.
I was not in favor of that.
Yeah.
I believe that as many races as possible should be partisan because I like to understand as a voter, it gives you a good starting point, right?
Right.
Now, so we had a couple of very healthy meetings in Frankfort with members of our delegation, and I expressed my view. Councilman Piagentini was on with me at one point, and look, the bottom line is the decision was made. The legislators felt strongly to do this. And as I was, when I worked for IBM, if there was a product change, and even if you didn't like what the brilliant people in the development labs came up with, it's your job to go put it out there in as positive and clear a manner as you can. So that's what we tried to do. But Tom, I will agree with you. I was answering a lot of calls, as was our executive director, Sarah Prevancher. Mm-hmm. And so, bottom line is, that's the law. And as soon as it became the law, we had to start thinking about, okay, how are we going to do this and maximize our opportunity? We had actually 2 Metro Council races that had there not been the nonpartisan in both 17 and 21, where Nancy Lynn Walters and Lonnie Joseph were running, they had multiple Democrats. Well, in a traditional partisan race, they would have been skating right through or running right through to November. Yeah. But because there were multiple Democrats, Tom, you had to have a primary.
Yeah.
And I also know that in the mayor's race, we would have had a Republican nominee, for the mayor's race.
For the general
but I
election,
know,
yeah.
and again, I don't want to ascribe motives or anything else. I believe that the legislature, the members, these are folks that have served for a long time, and I think their heart was in the right place. They also wanted to get people that were independents more involved in the primary process. I will tell you, that was one of the exciting things about this process this time, Tom, was I had independents call me and say, well, I just figured I'd call the Republican Party and ask, what do I do? Am I actually going to be able to vote? And of course, they said you'll be able to vote in if you have a Metro Council race that's up in your district. And also if you've got, of course, you can vote in the mayor's race. And they were pleased. So, look, you've got to, sometimes you need to take a look at where you move the business or the party forward, whatever it may be, and just do the best with what you've got. And also the state legislature did pass legislation earlier this year that was not specific to the Republican Party, Tom and Debbie, and Debbie, you heard me talk about
and
this
Bob,
in the meeting
Bob
where we can,
liked this too.
we can raise money for candidates in nonpartisan races. I actually shared that with the vice chair of the Democrat Party after one of the meetings down in the West End that I was attending. And the bottom line there is that the parties are still going to be very engaged in the nonpartisan races. But I will tell you, we need to do a better job. We learned a lot from this experience, and we need to do a better job of getting the word out about this. And, the county clerk's office did put a lot of information out there. At every one of our monthly meetings that Debbie referenced, we had information on how it's going to work. But not everybody. We only usually have 60, 70, 80, maybe sometimes 100 people attending. So they were up to speed. But still, there was some confusion. I certainly acknowledge that. And what we're going to do is work with the county clerk's office, the election center, and try to make it going forward as smooth as we can.
Got it. I would say maybe I think the state legislatures had the idea that maybe if we had nonpartisan races, that in the mayor's race you may have had someone like a Bill Dourif who lost a few years ago to Mayor Greenberg. He would have had a better chance because a lot of people just instinctively vote R or D in this county. And such a heavily weighted Democrat county, just the straight ticket voting runs against a Republican candidate. So maybe making it nonpartisan, a Republican can have a fairer shake. Would you say that was the argument for that?
That was part of the calculus, Tom.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, that was part of the calculus.
And including
and
independents.
I understand that. And including independents.
Yeah.
So I do understand that. And again, I'm not here to say anything. Look, that was 2 years ago.
Right.
So that's, it's old news. Except for the fact that, although it was passed 2 years ago,
this was
we just
the first
experienced
election
this
to do
last week and a half, and this is the first election. So we anticipated a certain amount of confusion. We tried to do as good a job as we could as a party to get the word out. But sometimes this is natural. Folks don't pay attention until the night before. Tuesday or whatever. And then it's like, oh my gosh, who do I call? Who would I vote for? Whatever. And,
Makes sense.
But we'll continue to hone in on this. And again, now that we're through the primary, it's going to be very straightforward, I think, much more straightforward as to, most of the races that will be coming up.
It's just hard to get the education out, and I'll include Bob in this. Bob will get a kick out of this. Hey, Bob, we had a lady come who wanted to vote for, in your district race, the Massey versus Galbraith. She came to the 3rd district. She's trying to vote. Right. She was very upset with me because I didn't have a ballot for that. So,
I think
but people just need to be educated in general. That really, I'm glad people are paying better attention, but we've just got to do a better job as citizens, our election centers, statewide, to help people understand.
Exactly right. Well, and Bob, I know you're eager to endorse one of the candidates in the general election for mayor, and so I'm curious who are you endorsing? Is it Mayor Greenberg or his calendar?
Or the socialists, or the other socialists?
Well, first of all, I don't live in Jefferson County,
oh, that's
so
right.
I won't have to worry about that.
Right.
But from what I've heard, because of the choices, I'm going to probably be leaning. Personally, I'd be leaning slightly towards Greenberg, but again, I don't have a dog in that fight, and. We did get a text that did come in already, and it's more of a comment. In fact, it's a comment and a question. But anyway, I'll read it to you. Citizens are required to vote blindly for judges. Citizens do not have access to judges' rulings. This is why we have so many liberal judges. Same for JCPS board. And then they go on to say, will voters be able to write in for the mayor's race?
Good questions, Don.
I think
I
there will
think
be
they
that
can.
opportunity. I think there will be that opportunity. By the way, on the school board races, we were very active 4 years ago. There were actually 4 candidates that we had to, we supported. We couldn't formally endorse them, but we supported them. And I will tell you, I've spoken with potential candidates in the last week for school board. This is a critical issue for this city. We absolutely. I'm proud to say my kids, all 3 of them went through public schools. I'm proud of that. They're older now. Would I send them today? Well, we'd have to do a lot more homework on that. No pun intended. But look, we need to improve the schools. Again, I would also, relative to the judicial races, and thank you to this listener for asking the question. I would love to have the party designation be on the judicial races.
You know what? I think.
But I know there's issues
I think
with
it
that,
is.
by the
I
way.
think they passed that. I think that now we're going. It's that we're going to get to know their party now. I think that was part of this year. I need to look that
really?
up again.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Maybe.
look that
Yeah,
up
I'm
again.
it's not
pretty
gonna be on
sure.
the ballot. It
So
won't be-
judges.
It won't be on the
judges.
ballot.
Right.
It's not going to be an RD next to to their name on the ballot.
I don't know, but
But
they're
at least
allowed to say their
allowed to
party
promote that.
affiliation
Well, yes,
now.
they're allowed to say their party
Yeah.
affiliation now,
Okay.
and that is correct.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know that you're going to see it on the ballot. And again, I just believe that the Republicans, party stands for certain things
Yeah.
that people relate to. We're
Right.
the conservative party, if you
Right.
want to look at it that way. And then the Democrat Party stands for certain things as well. And I think it's always a great starting point to understand. But again, we have opportunities this fall to really make a difference for this city, and we are committed to helping put more conservative voices into the system overall, as many as we can. Sheriff's race is another one, right? That we're going to have a good Republican candidate, or we already have him, but he didn't have a primary. So we'll keep.
We've
working
had
it.
him on the show. We're going to have him back.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
he just
he's
had
a nice young man.
This is Alex Marson, by
Yeah.
the way. Alex and his wife just had their first child, a lovely daughter. I talked to him a little bit earlier today. I said, "Okay, dude, you can take the week off, but we need you in the office next week." So we'll see him then.
It's awesome stuff. So, that's interesting. Writing in a candidate, and so, do you think the party would maybe promote someone to write in? I mean, or is that there's been any thought in that? Maybe we could draft Durriff again to running out. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you, going back to Bill, I spoke to Bill a couple of times. He, by the way, had his headquarters at JCRP when he ran, and I have a world of respect for Bill Durriff.
Great mayor of
he
J-Town.
he was a great mayor of J-Town. I think he would have been a great
Definitely.
mayor of Louisville, without a doubt.
Right.
But as Bill said to me, Don, Jody, and I are spending more time with the grandkids, and and they're traveling back and forth, and his golf game's greatly improved. So the bottom line is he has paid his service and more.
Yeah.
But as far as the write-in, what we're going to need to do is just see how this all sorts out in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Unfortunately, for whomever chooses to do that, the chances, if you look historically, write-in candidates, that's a long shot. But again, that doesn't mean that nothing's possible, because things can happen in races. So bottom line is we make a team decision. Debbie, we may end up talking about that at the next meeting.
Yeah,
You don't know.
the
Yeah.
Metro
And-
Council.
And you may end up taking away votes from maybe Greenberg, or maybe Greenberg's the lesser of the two evils, and you want to see him win. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, this is a fascinating discussion. We're talking with the head of the Jefferson County Republican Party, Don Fitzpatrick, and we want to hear your thoughts. So 502-571-0970 if you have any questions for Don. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about Metro Council next.
So would Tom Fallbush.
That's right.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. We're talking about the nonpartisan races that we just went through here with the recent primary and the fallout from that, and just some of the issues involved with that. We're talking about that with the best person to talk to about that, which is Don Fitzpatrick, the head of the Jefferson County Republican Party, because he took all the phone calls from the angry folks saying, "Hey, where's the R on my ballot? I can't. Who am I voting for?" And so it's a fascinating moment. And of course, we were talking about writing in a candidate for the mayor, and I'm going to write in Bob Scott. And I encourage all of you to write in Bob Scott. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, write-in candidates could be actually a bad thing, because it could be a spoiler or almost a vote for your opponent very often. So you got to be careful how you approach that write-in issue. And it may make some sense in some scenarios, but I don't know. I would hate to write in something and see some Democrat socialist become our mayor, because we had a more moderate Democrat lose because all the people that would have voted for the moderate wrote in somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I can see that scenario playing out too. So, Don, what are your thoughts on that?
On that, it's interesting. One of the things we are going to do very, very directly across every race where this pertains, and it pertains to a lot of them. There is a organization called the Democrat Socialists of America that, of course, has a Louisville chapter. They've endorsed a couple of folks out there. From my perspective, and last week I spoke at the Republican Women's Luncheon, and one of the folks came up to me afterwards, one of the ladies said, "Hey, Don, you kept using this acronym DSA.
Yeah.
People don't understand what that is.
Yeah. Right.
Well, the more I thought about it, I said, the acronym really should be SDA, the Socialist Democrats of America.
Yeah, that's exactly
because
right.
that's exactly what they are.
That's right.
And the views that they espouse. And so I think, have to make sure that is crystal clear in the eyes of the voter. Does that mean that we necessarily endorse someone that's not on that? Look, this is a party decision, and I'm not the only member of the party or executive committee. But I will tell you, and using the mayor's race, and look, Shamika Parrish-Wright and I have talked a few times. She has been endorsed by the SDA, the Socialist Democrats of America. Are we going to call people's attention to that?
Yeah,
you're darn right we are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We don't want we don't want a Mondami in Louisville.
No, we can't have a Mondami.
Keep him in New York. I'm sorry, we're not going to. He needs to be out of New York. But let me ask you this: Why couldn't we get a Republican candidate on the general ballot? Is it because we had too many candidates that were Republican or right leaning, and so we split up our vote, and it was. I'm curious how that played out.
It wasn't for lack of trying.
Yeah,
I know.
Look, the bottom line is, if you add up all the Republican votes,
we would have had somebody on.
Well, no, actually, it was still less.
Less than
really? What the number two. We are outnumbered here. And by the way, that's why I think it's a challenge, and I enjoy this, because as opposed to, some of the other county chairs that I get together with, and they're like, well, we need to press our Republicans, votership from 85 to 90%. I'm sitting here saying, holy smokes.
That's right.
Holy goodness. I mean, we'd love to clear 40% if we could and build toward 50. But the way you do that, Tom, I think, is you start working. Look, I had a lot of responsibility at IBM leading strategic alliances. Mm-hmm. That means it's a multi-year strategy with big companies, right? Yeah. And very, very similar to this. You have to have a strategy. Well, a couple of years ago, we decided we're going to start with Metro Council. Worked very hard to support Bill. Mm. But that year in 2022, unfortunately, Bill lost. And but we did pick up 2 Metro Council seats. If we were having this discussion, Tom and Debbie, 4 years ago at this time, there were 19 Democrats and 7 Republicans.
Wow.
We couldn't even call a vote.
Right.
Without asking one of the Democrats to help us. I mean, couldn't even get something on the table.
Yeah.
And then we went from 19-7 to 17-9. And then 2 years ago, we had our 4+3 strategy where we had to defend 4 seats, and we focused on 3. And the interesting thing was, people would say to me, Don, we have 13 races, because, Metro Council goes every other year, odd, even. Right. There's 13 races, Don. We're only in 7 of them. Well, when we win those 7 seats, we'll be up at 12. And we're going to focus, because my perspective was that we, as a lot of good efforts, et cetera, in the past, lots of good efforts. But when you try to spread the peanut butter too thin, Tom,
That's right.
sometimes you end up with nothing.
Isn't that exactly right?
And
yeah,
I
focusing
think
the effort. Yeah.
focusing. So now, as we are today, we're at 13 Republicans. Pardon me, I wish. 13 Democrats, 12 Republicans, and 1 independent.
Yeah.
So there have been over 2 election cycles. That's 5 more Republicans, and then one of the Democrats who we are going to be contending switched from Democrat to independent. But I will tell you that council, one other point real quick, and why does that matter? Let me give you a quick example. We now have half of the chairmanships of the 10 committees, half of them. We hadn't had a chairmanship for a decade. But by virtue of the good work done by so many people and our voters, we now were in a position, January of last year, to be able to start flexing some muscle and getting a much more balanced perspective. Now, I'm going to be much happier when we have a true majority, and we're going to achieve that, whether it's District 7, 17 or 21. We've got 3 great candidates. 2 of them had to have a primary, but they got through that. And, they're one of the 2 in each of those respectively that are going forward to November. But we've got work to do, but there's opportunity here that I want to make sure that your listeners and viewers understand, because we can make a difference. We're not the only, conservative organization in this city, but I will tell you, we're the one that should be, and we certainly try to be, the hub of the wheel. A lot of important spokes, a lot of important people, but we're focused on winning races, because at the end of the day, a party organization does not need to exist if you're not focused on winning races.
That's right.
But wouldn't it be nice if you had so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars, to be able to win every race you go after? That's simply not the case.
That's right.
So you do the very best you can with what you got to work with. And as long as the candidates understand, we'll help them as much as we can, and they know our focus areas, well, so far so good, at least in a couple areas, right?
Yeah. Yes, but we've got to win those 3 races this fall, and then we'll definitely be in the majority. And how awesome is that going to be? And that will make a difference with Mayor Greenberg. Or we're not going to say or anyone else, and hopefully we will get a great mayoral candidate next time, but because it's nonpartisan.
And it's open seat, by the way. In 2030, it will be an open seat. You won't be going up against an incumbent.
Right. We've talked a lot about on this show, Bob and Debbie, just the the concept of the urban doom loop, and what it is how these blue cities are voting so far Democrat. You get these, Democrat socialist mayors. You get these metro councils in these cities, and they're bad for business. They're bad with the criminal justice issues, the homelessness issues, and so these cities start decaying. People leave, businesses leave, the tax base then drops, and then the problem exacerbates itself, and it becomes a cycle of just urban doom loop. So Louisville could be one of these few traditionally blue cities that could avoid that fate by what we're doing, by what Don and the party's doing here, by getting the Metro Council flipped to a more conservative approach. We could be one of the shining examples of an urban of a city in America that could fight this trend. And we only have about a minute and a half left. I'm just curious, why do you think we're winning some of these races? Because whatever we're doing, let's keep doing it.
Well, I think there's been so much stuff. In fact, I know one of the Metro Council races, to give you an example, one of the councilmen, who's a proud member of the SDA, had proposed that any law enforcement can't wear masks.
Yeah.
So that's a complex issue, whatever.
Right.
But let me tell you, if that hadn't been defeated, and it was defeated by Republicans, if that had not been, a couple of Democrats, if that had not been defeated, you would have seen national news on, oh, wow, Louisville is now going left because of this example.
Exactly.
I think as a city, we have a great opportunity to pick up business.
Right.
Look, people want public safety. They want infrastructure. They want economic growth. Let's create an environment in Louisville. And by the way, although we've got a lot to focus on November of this year, next year, let's go ahead and elect a Republican governor. And goodness gracious, if we have a Republican Metro Council and a Republican governor and a Republican legislature, something, we could make this place, this state, a truly truly special place to
That's
live.
right. Yeah, Kentucky's.
I know. Bob's got text for us when we get back.
Yeah, that's
he
right.
said he does.
We'll have to
Yeah.
get some of your questions. So keep texting us, 502-571-0970 if you have any questions for Don Fitzpatrick, head of the Jefferson County Republican Party. And this is awesome. We could be heading into Louisville's golden age, Kentucky's golden age, and this is awesome. So stay tuned. We're going to talk more about this here on Kentucky's Voice.
Yeah.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. And, we are this close to flipping the Metro Council to a conservative majority. This is a big moment for this city, for this state, for this area. And we're, if you've watched the show so far, you've kind of learned what's happened over the past few years. We've been slowly, gaining ground on building a majority. We're this close. This election cycle, it could happen, and it would be one of the few blue cities in America that would have finally some sort of conservative governance, at least on the Metro Council level. And with a moderate Democrat mayor, you can get a lot done, And so we're very excited about that. And so we want to hear your thoughts. 502-571-0970. Bob, I know some texts have come in, so.
Yeah, really, really great text as usual. Our listeners are very astute and have a good understanding what's going on. And I think there is obviously a lot of concern. We've been talking about it, going to these nonpartisan races. And this question really kind of ties in with that or comment. They said voters need to hear frequently, all caps on the word frequently, on exactly where to look and what to look for about info on nonpartisan candidates. And that would even, we talked earlier talking about the judges' races, and we know what we've ended up in a lot of cases there as well, very liberal, left-leaning judges. So, how would you respond to that question?
Yeah, voter guides. I couldn't find a good voter guide this past, it was a challenge. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had a list of all of the candidates across all of the races on our website, Bob. But getting people's attention to go to the website is a different story. So, look, we've got to improve that. I'm the first one to say, and we're going to sit down as a team next week and start really, going through that. 4 years ago, there were a number of judicial races that were up, and we had a list of recommended, not endorsed, but recommended.
Because at that time, we couldn't do that.
No,
right?
no,
Can we do it now?
We had the list of recommended, Debbie.
Yeah.
2 years ago,
no,
there
but
was
are we allowed to endorse now or not? I can't remember.
We're going to be recommending.
Okay.
We'll do our homework.
Yeah.
Going to be recommending again in the legislature. The folks now can identify their party, but that is really going to be something. And we learned this lesson. Boy, I tell you, you'd always be in a position where you anticipated everything going into something like this, but it was brand new. And so we learned from this, and we're going to get better at ensuring that the information is out to folks, because we want the most qualified conservative candidates. I add conservative because that's what we stand for. The most qualified, conservative, grounded candidates, grounded in reality in some cases compared to some of the other folks that are out there. So we're going to keep working that, and that's a great question.
Yeah, another question that came in, Don. I already know the answer to this one, but I'll go ahead and ask you. They asked, why are no Republicans running for sheriff, county clerk in old county legacy do-nothing positions?
Oh, boy, I tell you, as Debbie knows, the county clerk situation broke my heart. We, first of all, I'll go back to last year when Bobby Hosklaw, who was a close friend of mine and very, very dedicated public service, an individual servant, just unbelievable. But, the mayor ended up he put someone in, namely David Yates. I had talked to him directly and said, from the Republican Party's perspective, we'd like to see an interim person. Not a, because we were concerned about the thumb on the dial. Nevertheless, he went forward with that move and putting David Yates into that role, which certainly made it harder on the Democrat side for Roz Welch. But we had a great candidate up until the night before filing, and Debbie looked at me and smiled before when the question was asked, because unfortunately we had an individual that decided the night before, and I'm not going to go into names or whatever. Would have been a fantastic candidate, but people
very
had things
disappointing.
Yep, and so the bottom line is, I called Debbie and 2 or 3 other people. Do you know of anybody at the last minute that we could call? And oh, by the way, they need to get the filing to the office by 5 o'clock tonight
in Frankfort.
Yeah. So, boy, do I regret that? Yes. But sometimes, unfortunately, that is the way it works out. And, you don't want to sit there and call someone names. Oh, you dropped out. But, last minute. Well, whatever. Sometimes you just have to take it and then move forward. We hustled that day. We tried to figure a couple of other options out and, didn't have the time. So that's the honest God truth, and that's exactly what happened. So Debbie knows that because I'd called her in a panic
I verify.
that morning, and we were, with a couple of our candidates. I was driving back and forth between Frankfort and downtown Louisville. On the sheriff's side, let me mention this. I think we have an opportunity this year in the Republican side. Young Alex Morrison, who I talked about Alex before, and I kiddingly said, his wife just gave birth to a lovely little girl last week, and I told him he could take this week off, but he's got to be back in the office next week. People have said, well, why didn't we see him, a Republican, on my ballot? Well, there was only one Republican. So that person, namely Alex, goes straight to November. And that's why you didn't see somebody for that.
Exactly.
Now,
because it's the primary.
And that was also something, Bob, that surprised me. I was pretty much thinking that there was another candidate that was going to, and candidly was Steve Healy. But Mr. Yancey won. But I will also tell you that from our initial evaluation of some of the stances that Mr. Yancey has made, we're going to be doubling down on that. And Alex is prepared. He's an energetic young guy, former LMPD policeman. So you're going to hear more about that race, I can assure you.
Yeah, Alex impresses me, and I know us as a crew here, because we have had him on a couple times, and does seem, and I think that's going to be the key, is people need to learn more about him.
Yes.
And certainly we're doing our part. But this is something that hopefully the party as a whole will really get behind him, because I think there is some real opportunity, with regard to that race.
Count
I want to jump
Bob.
in.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, I want to jump in. Yeah, he will. He's going to be great. I want to jump in just to remind voters again, that's why it's so important to vote in the primaries. That's where we pick our team. And that's why some people even came up to me as an election officer and said, why don't we have a candidate on here for a county clerk? And, but they had 2 Democrats to choose from. And I said, well, from what I heard, is the person dropped out at the last minute. And I said, but you still. And when we don't have anyone, then we're not going to have anybody on the ballot. So people were very disappointed about that.
Well,
I mean, and I knew
down.
they had dropped out, but I couldn't tell voters all that at this one time. But they need to understand, I was so proud. Every person that votes in the primary, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and get 50 more the next primary to vote as well. So we choose the absolute best team for our side.
Yeah, well, and when in doubt, just write in Bob Scott. I think
Exactly.
Bob Scott
Bob's
for Jefferson
great.
County Clerk would be amazing.
I think I would highly suggest Dan Brown.
Me too, our producer.
Director would be.
That's right. That's right.
Even though he lives in,
Bob
he
Scott.
lives
He's in
Indiana.
Indiana, doggone it. That's his
Bob
excuse.
Scott Mayor, Dan Brown Clerk. I like that. I like that team. Let's do this real quick. The Metro Council seats. That's such an important moment right now. Let's talk about the candidates in the key districts that are running. And I've got a map we can pull up, Mr. Producer, of the county, and there we go. And
Tom, you want me to jump in while you're doing that?
Please do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So which district and
Okay, so if you look at that, and I probably should have sent you my map. Because 2 years ago I was running around. A lot of people saw it. They probably got tired of seeing it, but it was the 4 + 3 = 12 plan. Protect the 4, add 3, and we have 12, highest we've ever had, and that's where we are today. Again, now if you look at this map, we have candidates this year. It started out, by the way, 5 + 3 plan.
Okay.
But now it's a 3 + 3 plan by virtue of the fact that 2 Democrats have dropped out.
Beautiful.
So we have to protect 3 and pick up 3.
Okay.
So we need to protect in 13. Dan Syme doing a great job.
Okay.
In
Yes.
public,
Live in
he
that
is
area
Mr.
there?
Public Safety.
South-
Mr. Public Safety.
Southwest Jefferson County,
Yes,
Fairdale
yes,
area. Okay,
absolutely.
So
Then
Dan
you
Syme
move over
Jr.
to 23.
Okay, 23.
And boy,
That's
Jeff
Okolona.
Hudson. Jeff Hudson kills me. Here's an incumbent that just goes out. He's already knocked on thousands and thousands of doors. It's like, well, that's somebody that's not going to take his incumbency for granted at all. So, kudos to you, Jeff.
Awesome.
And then we move to 11, which Kevin
J-Town.
Kramer. My goodness,
Kevin is awesome.
He's awesome. He truly.
He's my guy.
Yep, he's Debbie's. Well, there you have it. He's Debbie's guy. We're done. But he also, by the way, Kevin is he's the president of the National League of Cities. You don't get put in that position unless people think you're a very solid individual, can add a lot of value, and he has been. So we're
He's
proud
a future
to have.
mayor.
Okay, Debbie, we're starting rumors.
I'm just putting it in his
Throw
ear.
it out there.
From my lips to God's ears.
Yep. So those are the 3 that we have to protect. Now it's down to 3 + 3. Now
23,
let's
and
go
11.
into the other one. 7. And Kat Timmerman, who is a teacher at JCPS and has been involved with the Republican Party in the past, talk about energy. My goodness.
What's her name? Kat?
It's Catherine Timmerman.
Okay, Catherine.
So Kat for council. Kat for council.
Council 7.
And
All right.
so she's in 7.
That's St. Matthews, or what is that?
Yeah,
That's,
St. Matthews North into Linden and that area.
Okay.
Kind of,
For people on the radio,
yes,
we want to make
thank
sure
you.
they know
Thank
what
you.
area they're in.
Thanks,
okay,
Tom.
so District 7.
So she's fantastic. She did not have a primary. And one of the things we had to do a couple of times with Kat is, because some folk, you're spending your time with Nancy Lynn Walters and Lonnie Joseph. Well, that's because they have a primary. And we either get them through that, that gate, or we're not going to have a 3 + 3 plan. We'll have a 3 + 2 or a 3 + 1. The good news is, again, in 17, so Kat's going to be fantastic, high energy, smart lady, and committed. And in 17, Nancy Lynn Walters, boy, another, she used to be in the news business. And when you talk about central casting, people that can come in and present themselves, and she talks about public safety and infrastructure. She actually works across the river in Indiana. And at times she bemoans the fact she sees more development happening, business development happening in southern Indiana. Where she works.
Right. That's right.
It's
booming over there.
She is really focused on that.
So what area is that? 17
She's
is?
7.
So that's that best way to say it, that's
17.
Anchorage North, because
Yeah.
I live at
Okay.
Anchorage. My
Got
wife
it.
and I.
So Middletown, Anchorage North.
Yes,
Got it.
Middletown,
Okay.
Anchorage
Yeah.
North.
Okay.
And then
And
21.
she was also on the Anchorage School Board.
Yes.
So, but she's going to be fantastic. So please, people, vote for her if you live in that area. She's amazing.
Okay,
Yes.
the last one, we have a minute left. Last one is Lonnie.
Lonnie's
Joseph.
Lonnie
fabulous.
Joe. We've had him on the show several times. That's north of the airport. That's what do you call that area? The Beachmont or what?
Yes, Beachmont's part of it
Yeah,
for
Beachmont.
sure.
Yeah, that's
and,
right. Okay.
I mean, Lonnie and his wife Jenny, again,
Hard workers, man.
Boy,
Yeah.
I joke with them and say, we recruited one and we got two.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly
Because they're a
right.
tremendous
Wonderful
tag
couple.
team,
Wonderful.
and so they're great. So look, we have a real opportunity, and we're not taking anything for granted, but we're focused.
Yeah.
7, 17, 21, and then protect the very strong, high integrity individuals that are already there on this
13,
council that are helping
13,
us.
23, and 11.
And, we end up with 15.
And we're talking about salt of the earth, amazing citizens.
Yeah.
These people are hardworking, and
That's
we
right.
are very proud of all
But
of
you
them.
got to know their names, and so
Yes.
because you're not going to see an
Yeah.
R and a D in the ballot box, you got to know
Right.
these names. So we're going to go over them one more time in the next segment. Also, Don, tell people how in the next segment how they can help, how they can help these candidates win, how they can help the party, and we'll be right back with Don Fitzpatrick of the Jefferson County Republican Party.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Okay, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, along with Bob Scott and Debbie Robbins, and a special guest, Don Fitzpatrick, who is the chairman of the Jefferson County Republican Party. So a lot happening in this county, in this area, in this city right now. It's just a really interesting time to be a conservative. Just momentum. You can feel it in the air. There's momentum in lots of good ways. And so let's wrap up the Metro Council conversation just real quickly. Just go through the names one more time. I'm going to drive these names home into people's minds. The races that that we need to vote on. So
Defend and elect.
defend and elect.
Yep.
What are the names?
Okay, so District 7, that's Kat Timmerman. Again, she did not have a primary race, so you wouldn't have heard her. She's already knocking on doors, by the way. She's been doing that. But that's Kat Timmerman in 7.
Okay.
Nancy Lynn Walters in 17.
Okay.
Lonnie Joseph in 21. Those are the three that get us to 15
That's right.
while
Those are
we
the
successfully
pickups.
defend 11. We talked about Kevin before, Kevin Kramer. And then 23. 13, I should say. I don't want to skip over, again, Councilman Syme. Was doing a great job. And then 23, great job by Jeff Hudson. So those are the 6 that we really have to focus on. And in 19, there's 2 Republicans running, and we'll sort through how we handle that, Debbie, at our next meeting.
Yeah.
But we're the other thing I'd put a plug in, not because I'm sitting here, but my wife listens to your program every day, and she is on. In fact, she told me if I do well I'll get dinner. Otherwise, I don't know. You'll see me at,
That's
you know,
right.
you'll see me at Pizza Hut or something. But in any event, she listens to this program every day.
She's a
I
smart
think
lady.
the more folks that are like you and what you're doing every day, and the hosts, the different hosts, you know, earlier in the week,
Right.
helps us get the word out. And, you know, as I said, Kirsty tunes in every day. And sometimes she'll tell me something that I didn't know, which is great because I might have a chance to, you know, to hear it. But other things that we need to do, we need poll workers. 2 years ago, it was the first time ever we had 100% participation from Republican poll workers representation. This year, we were for this spring, we were a couple of hundred short. I'll just tell you that. And, you know, had to kind of fill them in with independents, whatever. So they do a good job with that. But we want to go right back up to full participation at the polls. We want to make sure, Debbie said earlier, you know, the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30, we are on, you know, prime time at 10801 Electron Drive, Suite 208. We try to keep the meeting to a 6:30 to 7:30. It is our executive committee meeting, but it is open to everybody.
Open to the public, really.
And it's
Yes.
open to the public.
Oh, that's
And we have a
interesting.
lot of folks that come in that just want to hear and want to engage. And that's one way to stay up with what's going on. But also, check our website. It's easy to remember, LouisvilleGOP.com, and there's going to be more and more opportunities. By the way, we've already, a couple of days after the elections, our ace summer intern, Max, went ahead and we said, okay, we're now focused on November, so make sure that, you know, we refresh the data, you know, on that. And so if you go out there today, and has been for the last week, you'll see the candidates that are
Who made it
racing
through.
in November, that made it through. Okay. And that was changed last week. So
Great, beautiful.
Yes.
So Debbie and Bob, you know, we've been following the the third district race. You know,
Yes.
With
Tom
McGarvey.
does a great description of McGarvey. Go for it, Tom.
Oh, I
Oof.
love you. What is it? Help me with it. 'cause
You're just
I've
great.
called him
I
so many
mean,
things.
we want to defeat him.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's, you know, and we should not have a Democratic. That's a whole other topic. We shouldn't have a Democratic district in this state. We need to redistrict anyway. That's just another pet peeve of mine. We're going to talk about that later. But let's talk about that race. We have a great candidate that we're putting up against McGarvey and Maria.
Maria Rodriguez.
Rodriguez,
And,
yes.
you know, I was really proud of her. I really am proud of our party. I just want to say that for those who think that we've not been in the West End or that we're not engaging, you know, different cultures of conservatives, that's just not true. I know that Don Fitzpatrick has just been pouring himself into the West End the past several years, and we love those people and they love us. And the conservatives out there, it doesn't matter. You know, this is a Christian conservative talk show, so I want to say to all Christians, God looks at the heart, man looks at the outside, and I can say we're looking at the heart. And I'm really thankful that Don found Maria Rodriguez through our dealings with all of our Cuban friends that are conservative. She's a young woman in her 40s and a mom, a single mom raising 2 kids. She's been a business owner. She's a nurse in the emergency room here. She came through the primary. We had wonderful people that wanted to run, and they did the best they can. It's very difficult when you choose to run for office. It's a very difficult thing. And so, but she's the one who came through, and I'm thrilled she did. And I know that Don, tell us more about her and your feelings as well.
And the
you
Cuban
and Tom.
community, because we wouldn't be this close in the Metro Council race if it wasn't for the Cubans supporting a lot
Exactly.
of because Cubans vote Republican.
They're
They
well,
vote Republican because
yeah.
they get it. They understand communism. They understand the left. They're better than anybody. They've lived it. Their whole
Maria's
lives.
told us. She's laid it out.
You know, it's interesting because we have the largest Cuban population in the country outside of the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I'll be there in a couple of weeks for some things going on. But, you know, this is a group of people, hardworking folks, hardworking folks. And Maria is a great example of that. She came here in 2009 with nothing but the clothes on her back, she and her husband and her mom. She had to flee Cuba finally because of religious persecution. She's a very proud Roman Catholic. Her mom was very active in espousing the Catholic religion and Jesus Christ. And they were essentially given 3 options, Tom and Debbie. Stop, leave, or suffer the consequences.
Well, she did go to jail twice, the mom.
Yep, her mom, and so they came over here in 2009, and she's just done great. She's she and her husband built up a business. She actually worked for a couple of years in the slaughterhouse, literally the slaughterhouse down in Butchertown.
Oh yeah,
That's hard.
You know, and that's you don't have the most. We all love our meat and beef, but you know it's not the most greatest smelling place.
I have
and
family that
whatnot.
work there. JB
Right.
Swift, yeah.
Exactly, JB
Yeah.
Swift. So they important work there. But she was there and worked for a couple of years. They saved, and she and her husband started a cleaning and restoration business. And her passion has always been medicine and helping people. And she now proudly is an RN, registered nurse at the only Tier 1, the only one in Kentucky. And it's down at U of L Health downtown. They get the hardest of the hard. If you know, the most serious, you know, wounds, etc., they get sent or flown or whatever to U of L. And one thing she said, she was at the bishop's table one morning with me, and she said, you know, when people come in and they're hurt, I don't ask them, are you a Democrat or Republican? I ask them where their pain is. Well, you know, there's a great analogy there for what politicians should be doing and asking, where is your pain? How can we help? Sincerely, how can we help?
Yeah, how can we serve?
And how
because
can we
it should be
serve?
served.
And there's a huge difference between a politician and a statesperson. I believe she'll be great. Now, the other thing, too, is, you know, Morgan McGarvey's been in there for a while. But I will tell you, just real quickly, a couple of votes that when I share with some of my friends in Anchorage, which is where he grew up, well, you know, Morgan voted against the Horse of Socialism Act. You know, Morgan voted against the Born Alive Act, which essentially said if a child is born and is part of an abortion, that it be given the same care as a child that was born early, let's say, in a family that was.
Yeah.
How do you vote against that?
That's right.
I'm sorry. This is no longer a woman's body. This is something that is separate and distinct. A human being outside of the womb.
Right.
Outside, disconnected. So that's something he voted against.
Yeah.
So that makes you wonder about his character.
Well, I mean, I tell you, that one is hard. He voted against the Lake and Riley Act. He voted against the Defend Women's Sports Act. By the way, I shared with the folks while we were off that tomorrow I'm going to have the opportunity to reconnect with Riley Gaines Barker, who has been so kind to come to our Lincoln Day dinners and speak in 23 and 25. And so Maria and I are going to be talking to Riley. Riley has already endorsed early in the year. She endorsed Andy Barr, our Republican Senate nominee, for defending women's sports. And certainly Maria will stand up to those kind of things as well. And then the final thing I'll say about Mr. McGarvey is when he voted in favor of the Charlie Kirk, you know, the resolution honoring Charlie Kirk.
A good thing.
I thought it was a good thing. But I was down at the bishop's table the day later, and I heard a number of the leaders in the West End community say, well, but public votes followed by private apologies don't cut it.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And that's exactly what had happened.
Oh, my
So
God.
I'm sorry. You know, we're going to call out Mr. Congressman McGarvey's, I want to be respectful, his votes. We don't have to pick on him as an individual, where he grew up. It doesn't matter.
Right.
We're going to focus on his voting record. We didn't have that 2 years ago, and we certainly didn't have it in 2022 when he was initially elected. But you watch, we will be calling that, and we will contrast a woman who is going to be a dynamic conservative leader in this country. Yeah. And we're going to have some success. Some people say you're crazy, Don. You never win. We don't have to redistrict. We're going to win this one.
Yeah, Bob, we have a text that came in, I believe.
Yeah, it's just a real quick question. Where does Debbie's group meet on the second Tuesday? I don't think it's just Debbie's group. But,
No.
if you want to address that, Don, that'd be great.
Don, what's our address at the Republican Party headquarters again?
10801 Electron Drive, Suite 208. Ironically enough, you'll see 3 small American flags on each side of the pathway going in. That's one way. It's a dead giveaway. We proudly display the American flag. We begin each meeting, by the way, with a prayer and with a Pledge of Allegiance.
Always.
And
Always.
That's the Jeffersontown Industrial Park, if you're not familiar with what Electron Drive is.
It's in the heart of
It's
J-Town.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Easy to find. And so great folks there. You're more than welcome.
And not that far off I-64, so it is easy to get to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we'd be delighted to have people there.
Yeah.
So we need to get Maria elected, Maria Rodriguez for District 3 against McGarvey. So put that on your voting to-do list. Also, let's talk real quick about the Barr Cameron race. So what are your thoughts on that race? That was a pretty, contested race, and
well,
it was heart behind Cameron, and
yes.
Yeah.
We Andy Barr I've known for about 12 years. Same with Daniel Cameron, because I used to call on them in D.C. representing IBM to talk about intellectual property reform, tax reform, etc.
Wow. Okay.
Fine individuals. There were other folks. Nate Morris dropped out. We also had Michael Ferris on our website. He was one of the candidates. Look, I think Andy is the person to take Mitch McConnell's seat. And I have tremendous respect for Daniel Cameron. And if you actually, one other thing, Tom, I'll say, if you compare Daniel Cameron's concession speech, all about unity, coming together, supporting, thanking folks, and then supporting our Republican nominee, for Senate, Andy Barr. And you contrast that with one that was done a little bit north by Mr. Massey, who talked about Tel Aviv and this, that, and the other thing.
That's true.
Look, let's just Republicans. Let's get on with the bickering inside of this party. We have races to win. We got to get behind this. Andy Barr will make a heck of a great senator. Yeah. He will. And, again, we're looking forward. He also, by the way, has made investments in the Cuban community over the last few years and meeting people. And so that'll be fun.
Well, Don, thank you for being on the show today. This is a real treat to have you. And so, thanks to everybody who's texted in their questions. We'll be back tomorrow on Kentucky's Voice.
Thank you, Tom.